Chapter 981, New Plan. Who is the most prominent in the sword hut selections? At night, after the trade caravan had set up their tents, Lu Shu sat by the bonfire and asked Yi Qian this question. There were three distinct groups within the trade caravan. The first group was made up of Sun Zhongyang and the children of the palace. They gathered together and discussed. The Sun family and the Mo family decided to investigate who was behind this ambush. Whoever dared to ambush the wealthy families from the palace would have to pay a price. Su Mujuan had surprisingly left the trade caravan. No one realized when Su Mujuan had disappeared. Sun Zhongyang and the rest even suspected that Su Mujuan worked with someone else in an attempt to kill them. Thinking about it, did Lu Yulu realize that there was something wrong with Su Mujuan? Thus, he had decided to humiliate her. But to be honest, Sun Zhongyang and the rest thought too much about it. Lu Shu had taken Su Mujuan's lifetime savings not to humiliate anyone, but because he wanted more money. The other group was made up of Song Bo's slaves. They stored their luggage and the goods. They served the children of the palace and silently guarded them. It was as if the people who had died in the past had nothing to do with them. They did not seem to care about what dangers there would be in the future. When the freedom of a person was restricted, their enthusiasm towards life would also decrease. This was the reason why Lu Shu did not want to become a slave owner of the Weiwu army. He felt that the Weiwu army would only have a future if the soldiers of the Weiwu army saw their own futures, and were willing to construct them. The last group of people was made up of Lu Shu, Lu Xiaoyu, and Yi Qian. They seemed out of tune with the rest of the trade caravan. Lu Shu subconsciously avoided creating deep bonds with the Sun family. He only had to enter the sword hut and find a way to go home. How the wealthy families in the palace contended and struggled had nothing to do with him. He used Sun Zhongyang and the rest to get rid of his opponents in the sword hut selections and ensure that they would not be able to attack. He also avoided being exposed to others when he was unclear about the situation. But he did not think that this was a long-term plan. It was said that one should not do the same thing 3 times. The first time that he caught the thieves would not be considered. 2 more times, and Sun Zhongyang and the rest would definitely be suspicious of him. Not only were Sun Zhongyang and the rest not foolish, they were extremely smart. They had attacked without hesitation as the children of the palace had set themselves high above the masses. Even children of wealthy families who were understanding and reasonable were still children of wealthy families. Thus, many people felt that it was easy to talk to Sun Zhongyang. But when their levels were different, they would feel the sense of superiority Sun Zhongyang and the rest had over them. Thus, under these circumstances, Lu Shu had to employ his best and limited resources where they were needed most. He could not make use of Sun Zhongyang and the rest too many times. Thus, he would use them on the most troublesome sword hut candidates. Yi Qian thought about it and said, "Many candidates who are participating in the sword hut selections have already gathered at the palace. Boss, if you want detailed information, I will have to go out and collect information." Although Yi Qian knew many things, the sword hut selections had nothing to do with him. Many people would gather information on the candidates, like that of the FIFA World Cup on Earth. Then, many people would observe this grand occasion. The gambling dens in the palace did this. But Yi Qian had many things to do. Every day, he faced life and death. How would he have the time to care about things like the sword hut selections? Thus, if he wanted detailed information, Yi Qian had to go out and buy them. Lu Shu nodded his head. If we're buying information, buy the most accurate information. Then, get information on the bets by the gambling dens in the palace. Boss, aren't you very familiar with the gambling dens in the palace? Yi Qian asked curiously. Since the Qingxai army joined the Weiwu army, he had been observing the affairs in the south region. Thus, he was familiar with how much goods his king had obtained from that battle. Back then, the mercenary soldiers were shocked. They did not expect them to fight with so many variations. They were not fighting. They were obtaining money. But to be honest, this king was very daring. With this sort of thing, if it was played well, it would become a story. But if it was not played well, it would become an accident. Yi Qian subconsciously looked at Lu Xiaoyu. He was suddenly curious about Lu Xiaoyu's role. Although the imperial dragon soldiers were very close to the king of gods, they were not as close as the puppet masters. Yi Qian had made some guesses about Lu Xiaoyu's identity. Sometimes, he would ponder. Was she the new puppet master? Or was she an even higher existence? Before Lu Shu had advanced, Yi Qian already knew that Lu Xiaoyu occupied a high position beside Lu Shu. Furthermore, the tyranny that she portrayed at that moment was hard for even Yi Qian to handle. It was not something that a young girl her age should have. Back then, it was as if Lu Xiaoyu's gaze was saying, if you are going to die, you will die in the manner that I have decided. At that moment, Yi Qian thought about how he had faced 3 sources of threat at that moment. He seemed to have formed a new guess. Sun Zhongyang and Mo Xiaoya sat by the bonfire. Mo Xiaoya said in a small voice, there is definitely something wrong with Lu Yulu. How did he take in a ferocious mercenary soldier just like that? Does he think that we are stupid? You can't say that. Sun Zhongyang thought about it and said, if you were Yi Qian, and realized that you could rely on the rear mountain of the sword hut, wouldn't you? I know I would. I would not, said Mo Xiaoya in a cold tone. That's because you lack nothing in your current environment. You are still unable to put yourself in his shoes and think about this problem, said Sun Zhongyang. I feel that we still have to listen to what they are saying. Although our experts have arrived, we still have to keep our guard up, said Mo Xiaoya. Lin Lin, go there. Remember, don't look at them directly. If not, you will be discovered. Lu Shu looked at Yi Qian. He felt that he had to appeal to the hearts of his new subordinate. He could not take away all of Yi Qian's money just after Yi Qian had sought refuge with him. Thus, Lu Shu asked, how much savings do you have? Don't pass them to me. Keep them and use them to place bets in the gambling dens. Yi Qian calculated. I still have about 60 million. What? Lu Shu was drinking water. He almost spat out his water. He had spoken too soon. Earlier, Lu Yizhao had only saved about 2 million after 10 years of being the commander of the Qingxai army. Thus, Lu Shu thought that even if Yi Qian was rich, he would not be as rich as Lu Shu. But he realized that Yi Qian was talented in earning money. But when he thought about it, Lu Shu figured out where his train of thought had gone wrong. Lu Yizhao did not have much money because he used his money to support the Qingxai army. But Yi Qian did not have to do so. Furthermore, Yi Qian would earn much more money through his job than Lu Yizhao. Although Lu Yizhao was able to collect taxes from Nanging City, there were rich and poor people in the city. Nanging City did not have fertile land and was near the border. They did not have much profit. If the head of the city had any bad new ideas, the civilians would not be able to continue surviving. Chapter 982, Selection Ranking. Yi Qian said, Boss, my money is your money. If you need anything, just tell me. Ahem. Lu Shu almost forgot what he had been saying. Use it to place bets at the palace. I realized that many people have the means to carry out long-distance communication. What kind of magical item is that? Suddenly, Lu Shu said something completely irrelevant. The commander of the Wei Wu army should be at the palace. Go there and find him. Ask him whether he is willing to make a deal. Yi Qian was dumbfounded. He could not understand why Lu Shu had said so. But he did not continue with the conversation. Instead, he took out a mirror from his invisible storage equipment. Lu Shu suddenly realized that the mirror looked like his sun mirror. Yi Qian smiled. I still have another transmission mirror with me. I will give half of it to you to facilitate our communication. As Yi Qian spoke, Lu Shu saw him break the mirror into half. Yi Qian passed one half to Lu Shu and kept the other half. He injected the mirror with spirit qi and the surface of the mirror started to shine. Then, Yi Qian used his skills. Lu Shu saw Yi Qian's shadow appear in the mirror in his hand. So that's how it's used. Lu Shu nodded. I have a magical item similar to this transmission mirror, but its function is slightly different. Yi Qian was dumbfounded. Oh. How is it different? Lu Shu took out the sun mirror from the Seal of Lands and pointed it in one direction. His celestial powers entered the sun mirror. Yi Qian saw a ray of light emitted from the sun mirror. It was as bright as the sun. In the distance, someone in the darkness shouted. He covered his eyes and ran away. Lu Shu acted as if he was panicking. Who is there? Yi Qian was speechless. Lu Xiaoyu was silent. From Lin Lin's distress, plus 666. Lu Shu went back to the bonfire. See. This is its function. Yi Qian was slightly puzzled. Boss, your mirror looks like half of the transmission mirror, but the problem is, I have never seen any transmission mirrors as bright as that. This might not be a transmission mirror. Lu Shu also felt that there was something wrong. In the past, he had pondered whether this had something to do with his celestial powers. Thus, this mirror was able to produce such a bright ray of light. But that did not make sense. Liang Che and Li Dian were almost blinded by this mirror, right? Thus, this had nothing to do with spirit qi and celestial powers. The mirror itself was very troublesome. Lu Shu carefully looked at the mirror. He suddenly asked, I saw you use one of your skills on the transmission mirror. What was that? Oh, that skill. Yi Qian taught the skill to Lu Shu. Lu Shu pointed at the sun mirror and used the skill. Suddenly, a ripple appeared on the surface of the sun mirror. But nothing appeared, as if there was no one on the other side. Lu Shu did not think too much about it and put the sun mirror away. He thought about it. Even if the sun mirror was a kind of transmission mirror, it was from Earth. Even if it could be connected to another half of a mirror, he would only be able to communicate with someone on Earth. It was unlikely that the other half would appear in the Luniverse, right? Thus, he felt that there was nothing in the sun mirror because of the barrier between the two worlds. Lu Shu curiously asked Yi Qian, this transmission mirror is very interesting. Who invented it? Yi Qian was dumbfounded. Don't you know? The old king of gods invented it. Lu Shu had no energy to fight back. He thought that the old king of gods was a demon king. But why did it feel like this demon king never did anything decent? Did he go to Earth and discover a telephone? Was he unhappy that the Luniverse did not have anything like that and invented one himself? Boss, do we have to be more vigilant there? Yi Qian looked in Sun Zhongyang's direction. He felt that they had even resorted to eavesdropping. They definitely did not have good intentions. No need. Lu Shu happily said, we can still use them. Lin Lin had just started to listen in on their conversation when he was discovered by Lu Shu. For some reason, after he had advanced to rank 1, he felt that his senses had become more sensitive. It was as if he had given himself a talent. Yi Qian left the trade caravan with a mission and flew to the palace. Sun Zhongyang and the rest could fly, but the other 8 could not. Thus, they could only follow the trade caravan. Furthermore, it would take some time before the Imperial College started lessons again. They were not in a rush. Sun Zhongyang and the rest were curious. Where did Yi Qian go? On the other hand, Lin Lin finally stopped crying after 2 hours. The destructive power of the light to the eyes was frightening. Although practitioners were strong, the eyes would be one of their weakest areas. Lin Lin informed them of what Lu Shu had said. Sun Zhongyang said in a small voice, I think that Lu Yulu wants to make a deal with Lu Shu in order to obtain more rewards. I think that he has a problem. Mo Xiaoya laughed. To Mo Xiaoya, this Lu Yulu fit the image that Lu Shu had wanted to create. He was greedy and sly. Could he have said that on purpose after discovering Lin Lin? Sun Zhongyang asked curiously. But he has no reason to say so. Mo Xiaoya and the rest did not know what Lu Shu was planning. To them, as someone from the rear mountain of the Sword Hut, what did the Sword Hut selections have to do with him? Thus, they did not think in this direction. If they knew that Lu Shu was planning to participate in the Sword Hut selections, they would have understood what was going on when they had injured the experts mistakenly. Thus, in the end, Mo Xiaoya felt that Lu Shu was trying to make deals with two parties. 3 days later, Yi Qian returned. He had a small booklet in his hands. He said to Lu Shu in a low tone, "This booklet was sold at the gambling dens in the palace. The information is accurate. They have taken the names of those who are participating in the selections and compiled them into a list. You two are on that list." The names of those who were participating in the Sword Hut selections were no secret. After Lu Shu had written a nomination letter for himself, he had to submit it to the North region to verify the candidates from the Weiwu army and submit them to the palace. Thus, the gambling dens in the palace were very resourceful. It was not a secret that Lu Shu was participating in the Sword Hut selections. Lu Shu took the booklet and laughed. They even ranked everyone. Who is the first? Let's get rid of him. Yi Qian hesitated and did not say anything. Lu Shu flipped to the first page and saw that he was the first. What in the world, what were the people in the gambling dens preparing for? Why did they rank him so highly? But Lu Shu did not know that these rankings were not just decided by the gambling dens. They had to consider public sentiment as well. No one knew that Lu Shu had advanced to rank 1. Thus, Lu Shu had surpassed 8 rank 1s and was ranked first as a rank 2. It was very bizarre. Lu Shu took another look. His odds were the lowest. It was not something that he could make use of. Lu Shu was depressed. Were you serious? A rank 2 had the lowest odds? But the people in the palace did not think the same way. They remembered the pain they had experienced in the past. They felt that no matter how strong the commander of the Weiwu army was, he would definitely make some mischief. Chapter 983, Long Yin River. Lu Shu was slightly angry. Rationally, buying his way to victory was the most stable option. After all, he had advanced to rank 1. As long as his opponent was not unnaturally strong, he would be able to defeat them easily, right? Thus, to Lu Shu, buying his way to victory was the way. But this arrangement by the gambling dens in the palace surprised Lu Shu. He would definitely enter the Sword Hut. He could not bet that he would lose, right? He loved money, but this was more important than money. Lu Shu was very unhappy. Why did the Songji gambling den not discuss this with him? But the Songji gambling den could not be blamed either. Their chief officer, Zhao Shuai, was in Nanging City. He had come to find Lu Shu, but he could not find him. Zhao Shuai did not know that Lu Shu was participating in the Sword Hut selections. He wanted to ask Lu Shu who was participating from the Weiwu army, and whether they could work things out. Zhang Weiyu knew that they were all old friends. Thus, he did not conceal the truth. The Great Lord was headed towards the palace. Lu Shu himself would be participating from the Weiwu army. But he did not see where Lu Shu was or when he had set off. Zhang Weiyu was worried that someone would determine where Lu Shu was. What if someone had evil intentions towards Lu Shu? He could imagine how many people in the palace wanted to kill Lu Shu. But Zhang Weiyu did not know that not only had people from the palace come, they were traveling with Lu Shu. Zhang Weiyu underestimated Lu Shu's shamelessness. As for Zhao Shuai, when he discovered that Lu Shu was the one participating in the selection, he was very shocked. It was his first time seeing a commander participate in the Sword Hut selections. Then, Zhao Shuai decided to discuss what they would do with the gambling dens. Although they could not find Lu Shu, he would eventually reach the palace. They had worked together for a very long time. It was easy to discuss what they would do. Thus, the gambling dens in the palace produced this small booklet. They decided to expose Lu Shu's strength. Others thought that the 4 rank ones in the Weiwu army definitely had a proper place, but Zhao Shuai had interacted with Lu Shu for a long time. He knew that Lu Shu was only a rank 2. Thus, Zhao Shuai felt that this selling point was very good. A rank 2 would turn the tides. Zhao Shuai did not think about what to do if Lu Shu was not selected. To be honest, he had never considered this possibility. Subconsciously, Zhao Shuai felt that Lu Shu would definitely be selected, even if he was a rank 2. He did not know where this confidence in Lu Shu's abilities came from. But the Songji gambling den had miscalculated. They thought that gamblers had poor memory. If they saw that Lu Shu was only a rank 2, they would be more cautious. But their memory this time was very good. The gambling dens thought that this was very bizarre. They had never seen this happen in their many years operating gambling dens. People who often lost bets still ran towards gambling dens. They would still lose, right? But they had overlooked one problem. In the long history of the Luniverse, no one was as ferocious as Lu Shu against the gamblers in the palace. Luniverse had taught the gamblers in the palace a lesson. He firmly taught them one thing. It was right to bet on Lu Shu. Thus, Lu Shu's odds were very low. The gambling dens in the palace felt that they would not be able to earn much from this. After all, their strongest candidate had been blocked. But at that moment, as Lu Shu was looking at the booklet, he suddenly thought of something. Everyone knew that the sword hut selections only selected for people every year. It was the standard and there were no exceptions. Was it possible for him to do something to this? This fell in line with his earlier plan. After more than 1 month, the trade caravan finally reached the palace. To Lu Shu's shock, the walls of the palace were painted with various words. The Songji gambling den welcomes you. Your address, please. Little Dragon Inn welcomes you. Hot Springs. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. What is this? Can you write these on the city walls? The city was lofty, like a mountain. In the past, Lu Shu had felt that the tiger's back was very magnificent, but this palace exceeded his expectations. There seemed to be no end to the city walls. Lu Shu stood in front of the wall and looked around, but he could not find the end. Just how big was this place? Many intricate advertisements were pasted on the entrance of the city. Government servants were even running around, pasting new advertisements. Yi Qian did not seem puzzled. Advertisements spread far and wide. This was something that the old King of Gods had established. Every advertisement space is very expensive. Only money-squandering establishments are able to afford them. But they are quite useful. Visitors are very easily attracted to these advertisements. Lu Shu was speechless. He wanted to return to Nanging City and tell the elders that advertisement spaces were for rent. The old King of Gods dared to do such a taboo thing, but the heads of cities would not. But Lu Shu did not care much about this. The moment he entered the city, he promised to Sun Zhongyang. I will help you to find the commander of the Weiwu army. But I have some private affairs to attend to. Tomorrow, I will visit the Sun residence. Then, Lu Shu asked Yi Qian to lead the way. The gamblers and wealthy families in the palace did not know that their most hated person had silently arrived at the palace. Furthermore, he was contemplating how to make them jump into the Longyin River again. Zhang Weiyu had been looking forward to what would happen when Lu Shu arrived in the palace. Now, Lu Shu had finally reached the palace. Sun Zhongyang did not stop him. He waited for Lu Shu to leave before laughing coldly. As expected, he is preparing to sell goods to 2 parties. What else would he have to do in the palace? He is not going in the direction of the sword hut either. He must be looking for Lu Shu, the commander of the Weiwu army. Follow him. Mo Xioya laughed coldly. Let me capture him in the act. I will have to inform the sword hut as well. Ahem. Sun Zhongyang interrupted her. I don't think you should say that. After all, it is the sword hut. What can you do? Mo Xioya was silent. She sighed. The sword hut was impressive. They silently followed Lu Shu, Yi Qian, and Lu Xiaoyu. But they were puzzled. Why were they going to the gambling dens? Sun Zhongyang got Sun Zhongyang to ask the people in the gambling dens what this young man was doing. But they did not have any impression of Lu Shu. How very strange. In reality, Lu Shu knew that Sun Zhongyang and the rest were following him. Thus, when he placed his bets, he used his mask to change his appearance. Yi Qian led Lu Shu in all directions. Sun Zhongyang and the rest followed behind. In the end, Lu Shu came to a small courtyard. He did not even say a greeting before he opened the door and went in. A valiant young man turned around and coldly looked at Lu Shu. But before he could say anything, Sun Zhongyang and the rest had flown in.
Ha! 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 Ha!
Lu Shu. Have you expected that today would come? The valiant young man looked up and stared at Sun Zhongyang. I am not Lu Shu. Sun Zhongyang was full of vigor. I know that you wouldn't admit it. The day Lu Shu arrived in the palace, Ding Qiushui, one of the most popular candidates for the sword hut selections, was mysteriously eliminated. The gamblers in the palace suddenly sensed that an unavoidable force had entered the palace and was pushing them into the Longyin River. Chapter 984, The Truth is Out. Sun Zhongyang and Mo Xioya were very proud. They felt as though they were intelligent enough to familiarize themselves with Lu Shu's plan beforehand and therefore was able to find Lu Shu, the commander of the Weiwu army, so successfully. Sun Zhongyang laughed. This is what I found. I can't pay you. You should be thankful that I am very forgiving and won't look into the fact that you sneakily came over to look for Lu Shu. No matter what agreement you had with him, this issue has been settled. According to what Sun Zhongyang thought, it was better not to offend the rear mountain of the sword hut. Therefore, he found this way out while conveniently getting the rewards for finding Lu Shu. Meanwhile, just as Sun Zhongyang felt extremely proud, Ding Qiushui, who was on the ground, spat out a mouthful of blood. Are you guys King crazy? I am not Lu Shu, I am Ding Qiushui from the Guang'an army of the North Lord of Heaven, Yu Fuyao. As he said that, Ding Qiushui took out his tag. He was afraid that he would have been beaten to death if he was any slower. From Ding Qiushui's distress points, plus 999. Ding Qiushui was extremely indignant. He was pressed on the ground and beaten up for no reasons. He initially thought that he was powerful enough as a rank 1. The recommendations by the sword hut were extremely popular, for rank 1s came over. Although he was the best out of all the elites, he could not win against 4 rank 1s. Ding Qiushui was troubled. Who the *CK were they? He had been to the palace for a while. Everyone knew that the selection of the sword hut involved fierce competition. If one did not look for others, others would still come after one. However, he did not expect one to be so fierce. Wasn't that King cheating? Ding Qiushui felt indignant when he initially saw how Lu Shu, the commander of the Weiwu army, was ranked number 1 in the small book. He wanted to meet Lu Shu, but it seemed impossible now. He definitely could not stay in the palace. He was severely injured and many people were staring at him. If he did not leave, his competitors in the sword hut selection would definitely attack him. By then, it would be too late for him to leave. This was the unspoken rule of the sword hut selections. Leaving the palace meant that one had voluntarily forfeited. After that, nobody could take advantage of this situation. Because of this rule, everyone was able to fight in the palace without any worries. If not, they would be attacked if they were severely injured and they would have been dead by now. Actually, many people wanted to target Lu Shu. At least, the rest of the rank 1 experts after Lu Shu had thought about that. To let a rank 2 get first place. What a joke. Everyone there were experts and nobody would be happy with one another. Moreover, the sword hut selections included the native talented soldiers who returned after their training. Many of them were the aristocrats of the palace. Of course, nobody would demand for a face-to-face fight. After many years of the sword hut selections, everyone knew that no matter how talented one was, if one was too cocky, one would not be able to last. The strategy was what mattered. Therefore, some people disappeared after reaching the palace as they attempted to hide to monitor the situation. Some people had discussed and wanted to collaborate and eliminate others. Since the start of the sword hut selections, everyone thought that a rank 2 was only a foil to the rank 1s. However, that was not the actual case. In the history of the sword hut selections, there was a rank 2 who passed the selections for almost every batch. Rank 1s were not undefeatable as there were many other rank 1s waiting for their fall. For this year's sword hut selections, there were 47 people in total, comprising of 8 rank 1s and 39 rank 2s. Of course, they did not calculate Lu Shu's capability correctly and therefore, he could be considered to have a hidden capability. Amongst the 30 over rank 2s, there were definitely those who wanted to get rid of the rank 1s. Those who dared to take part in the selection definitely had to be ambitious and courageous, or why would they be there? To ordinary people, when they found out he who was meant to be a rank 1 but was viewed as a rank 2, they would definitely laugh about it. However, Lu Shu could not laugh. That was because even if he was a rank 2, he had been ranked first. Therefore, Lu Shu was slightly unhappy with the Song Gambling Den. Why didn't they discuss with him? The Song Gambling Den also felt desperate. They did not expect such a thing to happen too. However, the biggest strength of Lu Shu was still his capability. At least, he was able to match up to a rank 2. He was already thinking about how to get into the circle of the other rank 2 candidates. Ding Qiushui stood up with the support of the wall and was ready to walk out as he packed his things. I am really not Lu Shu, are you guys done beating me up? I'm leaving now. Sun Zhongyang realized that something was amiss. He turned to look at Lu Shu. Lu Shu was very surprised. Why is he Lu Shu? I have met Lu Shu before, he is not Lu Shu. Ding Qiushui heaved a sigh of relief. Thankfully, there was someone who could make sense of things. Hold on, Ding Qiushui suddenly realized that it was because of this young man who caused him to be beaten up. However, he could not care about that any further. Ding Qiushui walked out of the backyard and announced at the top of his voice, I, Ding Qiushui, am quitting the sword hut selection. After he finished his sentence, he pushed the rest aside and walked out of the courtyard. It was not because he had lost his flying capability but rather because the old king of gods had changed the rules when he was building the palace. It was a land with a completely restricted airspace. Sun Zhongyang was stunned as he stood in the courtyard. Why did they beat up the wrong person again? Hold on, everyone came over after hearing what Lu Shu said. Moreover, Lu Shu's actions were the same as what they had guessed. However, they mistook Ding Qiushui as Lu Shu. Ding Qiushui did not know Lu Shu and neither did Lu Shu know Ding Qiushui. Everyone could tell that. So why did Lu Shu go there, just to make use of the rest to kill Ding Qiushui? However, what beneficial relationship did Lu Shu and Ding Qiushui have that required Lu Shu to do that? Lu Shu was not even a candidate for the sword hut selection. Hold on, Sun Zhongyang looked at Lu Shu. There must be a reason for this. Ding Qiushui came from a foreign place and did not interact with Lu Shu before. The sword hut selection was the only possible reason why Ding Qiushui got into some conflicts with others. When his deductions had eliminated all possibilities, the only answer, no matter how unbelievable, must be the truth. Sun Zhongyang felt extremely horrified when he saw Lu Shu's smiling face. If his deduction was accurate, then it meant that throughout their entire journey, Sun Zhongyang suddenly fell silent. You all came from Nanging City. That's right. Lu Shu nodded his head. Lu Shu, the commander of the Wei Wu army, had always been very mysterious. Even someone like Song Bo did not meet him before, yet you said you met him before, said Sun Zhongyang calmly. That's right. Lu Shu was smiling very happily. His white teeth were reflecting light under the sun. You guessed it, I am Lu Shu. Therefore, not only did Sun Zhongyang not manage to beat Lu Shu up, but he also helped Lu Shu get rid of 2 candidates of the Sword Hut selection after paying Lu Shu a huge sum of money. Sun Zhongyang was stunned. Are you a demon? From Sun Zhongyang's distress, plus 999. From Mo Xiaoya's distress, plus 999. From Chapter 985, Arrival of Lu Shu. Sun Zhongyang was very intelligent. To Lu Shu, that was a known fact since the beginning. Many people hoped that aristocrats were rich and foolish, but in reality, the fact was that what he had was actually hard-earned. For example, Sun Zhongyang had an elegant demeanor. This was because his father hoped that he could have sufficient capability and charisma during the next contest for the head of the family. For example, Mo Xiaoya had figured out Lu Shu's true personality since the start. Therefore, the same thing could not be done 3 times. After Ding Qiushui was dealt with, Lu Shu did not intend to make use of Sun Zhongyang and the rest anymore. It would be disastrous if he annoyed them too much. Moreover, if he was exposed, Sun Zhongyang would not give him the remaining $3 million. Sun Zhongyang wanted to punch Lu Shu's face. He recalled when Lu Shu said that he knew Lu Shu and could help to identify him. His expression was so natural and his acting skills were flawless. He could not understand how Lu Shu managed to both stay so calm all this time and cheat them of their money. Sun Zhongyang sighed. Actually, Lu Shu did not cheat them of their money. Without Lu Shu, they would have died on the way. You trained the Wei Wu army? Asked Sun Zhongyang curiously. Yes. Lu Shu smiled happily. Pay up the remaining sum and remember our agreement. I want the magical armor. Sun Zhongyang signaled for someone to pass the box of notes to Lu Shu. He examined the young man from head to toe. He would not have believed that he trained the Wei Wu army if he had not followed him for the entire journey. In the Luniverse where power was honored, most of the children of the palace hoped to become famous fighters when they achieved a high level of skills. Although Sun Zhongyang said that he wanted to beat Lu Shu up, he was also very impressed by Lu Shu. The entire Luniverse knew how the Wei Wu army was like in the past. And now, everyone also knew how the Wei Wu army could not be messed with. Sun Zhongyang's emotions were extremely complicated. However, he felt that he met the criteria to become friends with Lu Shu. As long as he had money. He understood why Lu Shu collaborated with the gambling dens of the palace to make the bets. It was all for money. Mo Xiaoya, who was beside him, was even more shocked than Sun Zhongyang. Initially, she looked down on Lu Shu as she felt that it was bad for Lu Shu to betray others. However, she did not expect Lu Shu to betray himself. At this moment, the news that Ding Qiushui was eliminated was spread throughout the entire palace. Some people said that the palace was so big that even a rank 1 expert needed to fly for one entire day to get to the other end. Although this was an exaggeration, it showed how majestic one felt about the palace. Visitors from all around the world came over to make business, enjoy themselves and worship the king. However, the news regarding the Sword Hut selection seemed to fly faster than the rank 1 expert. Everyone was extremely shocked. The gamblers had nothing to say as they held on to their worthless bets. Ding Qiushui's background was extraordinary. There were rumors claiming that he was the illegitimate child of one of the great masters under the rule of the North Lord of Heaven, Yu Fuyao. Besides that, during the 5 years where Ding Qiushui served the Guang'an army, he killed 2 rank 1 experts. This was the reason why Ding Qiushui was so confident of entering the sword hut selection, as well as the reason behind why the gamblers of the palace placed their bets on him. Some of them bet that he would win the first place, while some bet that he would be able to clinch one of the 4 vacancies. Those who were more cautious bet that Ding Qiushui would last through the first round. However, everyone was disappointed. Nobody expected Ding Qiushui, near the top of the candidate list, to be eliminated. Moreover, the people who attacked him were also identified. It was the expert of the Sun family and the Mo family. The 12 of them attacked and beat Ding Qiushui up violently. Many of the gamblers could not understand as they stood beside the Longyin River. Why did the Sun family and the Mo family beat Ding Qiushui up if they were not involved in the sword hut selections? Ding Qiushui was so likable, how could they beat him up? At this moment, the entire world of the gamblers fell apart. Nobody bothered about whether Ding Qiushui was likable or not. However, the Sun family, Mo family and the other families did not give any explanation. Yi Qian went around the city with the gambling den's receipt that Lu Shu gave him. Lu Shu had placed a heavy bet. Apart from the Song gambling den, the 10 other gambling dens in the palace were also extremely unhappy and looked as though they had been robbed, Lu Shu knew it by a simple calculation. He was able to obtain 2,000 magical armors this time. Initially, he was worried that the gambling den would not admit it. However, he underestimated the capability and credibility of the gambling dens of the palace. The Song gambling den had been established for almost 1,000 years. If they were not credible, how would anyone be willing to place a bet at their den? Moreover, although Lu Shu took away nearly 6 months' worth of profits of the palace, as compared to the long days to come, this small amount of losses would not shake the foundations and was not worth the outrage of the gambling den. The boss of the Song gambling den was sitting in the backyard of the gambling den and making his cup of tea. He looked extremely calm. However, no matter how calm he was, he could not control how his hand shivered. Accompanying a king was like accompanying a tiger. The aristocrats were like their king. If they lost such a great sum of money, the boss of the Song gambling den would be taken over by someone else. The managers nearby did not dare to speak. They were waiting for Xiao Mingzi to think about his life. At this moment, Xiao Mingzi suddenly asked, "Have you figured out who he is? We didn't manage to follow him. He is a rank 1 expert and it's difficult for us to catch up." One of the managers shook his head. Moreover, the rules of the gambling den stated that we are not allowed to check on rank 1 experts. We have already violated the rules. Xiao Mingzi put down his teacup and said firmly, "I have a feeling that Lu Shu, the commander of the Weiwu army, has already reached the palace." "You mean?" asked one of the managers cautiously. "He could have taken the money and left," sighed Xiao Mingzi. He had been worried that Lu Shu would become the top-ranked candidate after he sold the booklet. This would definitely cause Lu Shu to be unhappy as everyone knew that Lu Shu was more concerned over the outcome of the sword hut selection. There was a common understanding that anyone would choose to enter the sword hut for the prestige as compared to simply earning money. Although Ding Qiushui's elimination seemed to be completely unrelated to Lu Shu, Xiao Mingzi's intuition told him that Lu Shu was the culprit. In the past, they had collaborated with Lu Shu to sabotage others. Now, Lu Shu secretly sabotaged them. It must be karma. "So what do we do?" asked the manager. "We really created more trouble. I will report this matter to the owner of the family. He likes Lu Shu a lot," said the big boss Xiao Mingzi. "Send all the forces to look for Lu Shu and tell him. We can discuss matters." At this moment, Xiao Mingzi felt that the power of that sentence was insufficient and added, "I, Xiao Mingzi, will owe him a favor."
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just put 'em on the shelf. Try to look to the heavens.